that, hi everyone, and welcome to today's session, Eliminate Manual Data Entry, Chronicle and Clio in Action. This is part of Chronicle's Advancing Technology and Disability Law series, where we highlight tools, workflows, and integrations that are helping disability firms modernize how they work. As a heads up, in case it's your first time with us, you will receive a full replay right after today's event. So there's no need to worry about missing anything. We'll also be taking questions throughout in the Zoom chat. So the best thing that you can do is if you can just include 2 hashtags in front of your question, it makes it a little bit
No,
easier
my
just to
computer
track
doesn't have
on
speakers,
that
so I
side
have
of
to go.
things.
I'm going through the
And then
laptop over here.
in terms of everything else, we're going to jump into some quick learning takeaways, some intros, and then get started on the presentation. So as a heads up, by the end of this session, you will be leaving with these takeaways. First, you're going to learn about how Chronicle's native Clio integration eliminates manual ERE entry. You're going to also learn what the setup process looks like for Clio on the Clio admin side, and then field mapping, followed by matter stage mapping. Nikhil is going to walk us through that. We're going to also go over how ERE data will flow into Clio automatically. And then we're going to learn why native integrations are so much more reliable and cost effective than if you've been piecing this together with Zapier or something else, and how to get started with a free white glove setup session. As a heads up, for submitting feedback at the end of this workshop, we have a CMS integration setup checklist. So if you're looking for a guide as to how to integrate your case management system into Chronicle later on, be sure to fill out that feedback form, which we'll share at the end of the workshop. It includes details of everything we went over today, as well as how to do this across Clio, Filevine, Litify, and more. So just stay tuned for that. With that, for a quick introduction from me, I'm Will. I focus on building education, partnerships, and collaborations that help disability practices adopt better tools and stronger operational standards. I'm also joined today by Nikhil, the founder of Chronicle. It's a platform that's helping Social Security disability firms automate their case tracking, ERE monitoring, as well as document workflows. Chronicle is now monitoring over 177,000 cases and 7.5 million SSA documents across 2,100 disability professionals. And Nikhil's going to walk us through why we built this integration and how this workflow works exactly from here. So Nikhil, feel free to take it away.
Great. Well, great to be talking with you all. I'm super excited about this presentation today. It's been a long time in the making. The core problem we try to solve with Chronicle is understanding where your cases are at the SSA, right? If you're running 20 to hundreds of thousands of cases, at any point it can be overwhelming since the data is always changing. These cases take 18 months, and so you're not tracking each one every single day. And so Chronicle is built to monitor that. However, Chronicle is monitoring the ERE. It's a silo of data, meaning you have to check Chronicle all the time or get our notifications to know what's going on. Where you usually have a case management system such as Clio, where you're constantly triaging, doing tasks, having your case managers or your staff take note, and it really is your system of record. So the goal of this integration is to connect those two systems. So that way that flow of data from the ERE that Chronicle is monitoring is able to automatically end up in your case management system so you don't have to do manual data entry, and means that you can build automations and keep your systems more up to date. The key things that to make it very concrete about like what we're really trying to solve for. First is manual data entry, right? There's all these things like the DLI, the AOD, the hearing date, the status of the case, the decision that currently lives in the ERE, and a lot of staff is mainly entering that into Clio to trigger automations or move the stage forward in Clio. So we're trying to make that automated. And there is the actual set of documents that are in the ERE, right? To have compliance, to have your record of all your documents, you are often putting that, downloading that out of the ERE in Chronicle and putting it into Clio. We want to automatically push those things for you so that way you guys don't have to do that manual process. So it's really about this manual data entry problem and connecting those two systems together. So it works in four simple steps, and I'll be walking through all that. First is you have to connect and authenticate. We are a approved plugin with Clio, so we'll have direct connection to your Clio systems, and you'll have to authenticate that. Then you have to configure your sync, so you have to tell us how we actually match the Chronicle clients to the Clio clients in Matters. Then you can actually configure your matching, so how this data flows into each field or stage or folder. And then finally, you can start the sync and actually start seeing that data flow into Clio. So with that, let's go into a live demo. Share my screen. Send a request will. There we are. And then let me choose this window. Alrighty, y'all able to see it? Cool. All right, so this is your Chronicle dashboard. Just to level set, right? You're probably used to logging into this every day where you're seeing all of your case statuses, your decisions, and so on. And then you also have your Clio dashboard. This is my Clio account, so it's a little bit empty, but you can see in here, I have all my matters that are open in Clio, and so on. So very similar probably to the setup you guys have. And just to also make it, once again, more concrete, in my Clio account, I have my stages. These are very basic. You would likely have more, but I have initial, recon, hearing, and appeals. You may have additional stages, but each matter goes through a set of stages in Clio. So to actually set this integration, we'll start with the authentication step. First, you go into settings, then integrations, and there'll be a tab for Clio. As you can see here, we have our other available integrations, but we're focusing on Clio today. And to authenticate, it's super simple. I just click connect to Clio. That will open this page and will request that we have the ability to actually see things in your account. You'll allow access, and that will create the connection. Now, if I go back to integrations in Clio, I'll see that I'm connected, and it's a green light. I just want to make one quick note here. Whoever sets up the integration, all of the actions that Chronicle will take will come underneath their name. So right now, when Chronicle updates a field or uploads a new document into Clio, it will say Nikhil made that change in Clio. That's just a quirk, so just know whoever sets up this integration, their name will be attached to all the changes Chronicle is making. The next step is the configuration side of things. As I mentioned, you need to actually set how we match clients. The way Chronicle matches a client to a matter in Clio is based off of last name and last four of SSN. So just know, if your Clio matters, the last names don't match up with the ERE, we will fail to match. And I'll show you how that actually manifests. But to actually configure it, first you have to select a practice area. Everyone here should be doing disability, Social Security. So you'll just select that. Disability, Social Security. And then you have to tell us, where is the SSN kept in Clio? SSN is not a standard field in Clio, so you will have to have created it yourself. Likely you have it somewhere already. You will just go down this list and select which one it's on. We are able to pull it both from the contact or from the matter. So you could have it in either place, and you'll just select the place that you have the SSN stored. Once again, it's the last four of the SSN we're checking against. So the last four digits have to match. Then you have the option to also turn on a sync of SSNs from Clio into Chronicle. As you probably know with Chronicle, to activate documents on each client, you have to manually enter in the SSN each time. If you turn this on, when we match a client based on last four, we will also pull that full SSN into Chronicle and start monitoring the files. Just note there are the associated fees of that happening automatically. Once these are set, great, your account is now able to match clients, and you'll actually jump down here to the client matching section. We will automatically start matching new clients, but if you want to match all previous clients, just click this blue match clients button and we will run a full sync of all clients. So here, with our movie magic, I've already synced all my 1,400 clients between Chronicle and Clio. So it's already able to check between the two. and it's found a match for everything, but there was one that failed to match, Liam Smith. Here you'll be able to see that Liam Smith actually had multiple matches, and so we failed to match them in Clio. If there's no matches, it would show no matches. So the two common scenarios are either multiple matches, meaning there's too many matters and we don't know which one to choose, and you'll have to resolve that in Clio by removing them, or there's no matches, which means we failed to actually find the client based on last name and last four of SSN. You can export this list if you want to and work through it. Initially, there likely will be quite a few that are not matched if you have messy data in Clio. Great. Does integration add some sort of shorts cut to Chronicle within Clio, either in the matter? Yes, I will show that in just a second. So once it's matched, you now have the ability to set up field mappings. So this is to the point of manual data entry, how you can actually start mapping data from Chronicle into Clio. So I'll start with the stage mappings. So just to remind you again, in Clio, each matter has a stage, right? And right now I have my 4 set up. If I go into Chronicle and I go down into stage mappings again, I'll have the same 4 Clio stages, and now I can choose based on the ERE status of case what moves it into that stage. So I've already set up a couple here, but let me just reset them so I can kind of explain what's happening. So if I want something to move automatically into the initial stage, I can now click this list and I'll see all the possible stages in the ERE. Unfortunately, there are a lot. This is quite a messy list. We're going to do some work to clean it up, but I can actually say, you know what? When the initial is open, I want to move into the initial matter stage in Clio. Same here for recon. I can have it move based once it's in a recon, going all the way down to recon, open, I can have it go there. Alternatively, if I want to automatically move once the case is closed, another way I could do this is I can say, I want to move to recon when it is initial close unfavorable. So I can actually go into here in the initial list and find the close and say, when it is T2 close unfavorable, move it automatically into recon. You could always have like a stage in between, but just know you can do it on either side. You can select multiple. Here, for example, in hearing, I can move it to hearing automatically when it hits master docket. I can go down and also say, you know what, I only want it to be when it's hearing scheduled hearing. And that will move it into that stage. And then, of course, you can pick and choose. Just know there's a lot of stages. It's a little bit of a trial and error process where you will want to turn some of it on and see how it moves forward. Just know we will never overwrite a stage change that you have done manually. So when we will automatically move it once, but we will never move it again. So if it's in recon and you manually move it to hearing, we won't move it back to recon later. Then we have the field mappings. So this is where in Clio, you're probably used to on your clients, you'll have a set of custom fields. So here, for example, I have status of case, DOI, office, and hearing date. You may have more. You are able to configure these yourself and talk to Clio about how to set up those custom fields, but I'm sure you have many or you have an admin who's able to do so. I can now go in here and I'll see a full list of these Clio fields, so those same ones I was just mentioning, and I can map Chronicle data into those fields. So I can do status of case, goes into status of case. I can do DLI, DLI, into the DLI field, and I can do, let's do office, and I will select office, so hearing office. And that will go into those respective fields, and I'll save the field mapping. And so now Chronicle will automatically update Clio going forward with this data. Just note, when we start, we will never go and backfill the data. So, we only fill when there are updates. If you ever want to resync the fields and make everything get updated, you can click this resync button and do all or new only or from a specific date, and we will go and update all your matters from that date. Then the last thing you can configure is the document sync. And so you can enable the document sync, and that will now automatically move ERE files into Clio. So if I turn it on, it's just a toggle. It will start moving all new documents in, and then I can always click this backfill button if I want all my old documents to show up in Clio. To show you what that looks like is on this Clio case for Paul King, I can actually now go into my documents folder, and there will be a Chronicle ERE folder right here. And if I go in, I have all my sections, and I can click into them, and I will actually have all my documents appear that were in Chronicle also appear in Clio, and I can click on these, and I'll be able to view them out of Clio. When it eventually loads. Come on, internet. Not sure why it is being so slow today, but assume that you can actually view the documents in here. Let's try one more. Oh, and let's spin. There we are. And so you can view the documents in Clio. This is also really great if you're using any of the Clio AI tools. Having these documents in Clios enable a lot of those AI tools once you have the documents in there. You can always, to monitor how things are going, go down here into the sync history, and you can view what's happening. We're syncing every 15 minutes, so just know that is the delay you can expect. But every 15 minutes, we will sync new data. Great. One last bonus piece of content, which is automations in Clio. Assuming that you actually use matter stages, and you have tasks associated with each stage. You may have used the Clio feature of tasks and task lists. So I have this task list right now for prep hearing that has, confirm hearing availability, contact client, review medical records. These are the tasks I want assigned out when we get to hearing. I can now actually go into the automation settings of Clio. Let me go find it quickly. Where'd it go? Where is settings? There's settings. And then automated workflows. So settings and automated workflows in Clio. I can then do matter stage, change, assign task lists. And so I can say for disability, when it goes into hearing, from recon to hearing, I can assign my task list of prep hearing to responsible staff. And now in Clio, whenever Chronicle automatically moves the case to hearing, this task list will get assigned to my responsible staff so they can start working that case and know what they need to do. Great. And that is the live demo.
Excellent. So we're going to swap back into the slides, run through those steps once more, and then start answering some of the questions that came up in the chat. Nikhil, why don't you run through these steps just through the slide version, and then we'll cover some of the takeaways.
Great. Are you sharing your screen right now?
Yes. Can you see it?
Okay, perfect. Alrighty. So a quick recap. Step one is going into settings as a Chronicle admin, and then going to integrations, Clio, and then clicking connect. So that way you are able to authenticate your Clio account with Chronicle. Once again, noting that the person who does this authentication will have all Chronicle changes under their name. Cool. I think we skipped. Oh, sorry. Go back one slide. Step two of that is then configuring your practice area and where you keep the SSN. Once again, we support both SSNs on the contact and the matter. You just have to tell us where it is so we can match. And we match based on last name and last four of SSN. So those need to exactly match between the ERE data and Clio. Then you can start the client match. You can click the blue match client buttons. That way we go back and check all clients and run the match. The thing that will happen if we're not able to match either no match found, which means you need to correct the data in Clio, or multiple matches, meaning there's multiple matters for that client for that practice area. Finally, you can do the actual field mapping setup where you can either choose what ERE status of cases change the matter stage in Clio, So you can either do that as things being opened or things being closed. And then the field mapping, where you're able to choose what data from the ERE, such as DLI, hearing date, office, populates what field in Clio. And then the last thing you enable is the document sync. This is a simple toggle with the ability to run a backfill, and this will move all the ERE files automatically into Clio, so that way you have it available to you. And then if you ever need to track the sync history, you just scroll to the bottom and we'll show you what's happening. We sync every 15 minutes, and this will just show you, what we're updating over time and if there's any issues.
Just to recap for folks, before this integration, case managers had to monitor the ERE, then manually enter a lot of these status updates, hearing dates, documents into Clio for every case. And now this is all fully natively integrated. So it's automatically updating once you set up this integration. When your staff pulls up the client, all the relevant information and documents will be there, and there's no toggling between systems. The reason why these native integrations are so much more powerful than, for example, if you configure this with Zapier is because, as Nikhil showed you, you authenticate once, and then from there, it's configured and it's just feeding through. Also, the cost is fully included in your Chronicle Pro subscription if you are already on that tier. Whereas if you are using Zapier, you probably are paying for a separate Zapier integration on that side. So there's a direct API. There's no middleware to have to worry about breaking if Zapier ever had an outage or something like that. It's just, Chronicle talking to Clio and Clio talking to Chronicle. And in general, we're going to maintain updates with this integration as well. And so that's something in which, as things are evolving with Clio, whether it's with their AI tooling and other respective features, we're in touch with the Clio team on that side as well. So we've had some firms that have been using this integration and shared a couple words in terms of their experience with this integration. Specifically, Travis McCracken from Golson, McCracken Inc. told us that this new Clio integration of automatically syncing documents from the ERE is really giving him confidence that everything is captured and organized without any extra work. And it's really rare to find a product and leadership team that's so aligned with the needs of its users. And he's looking forward to continuing to grow along Chronicle in the future. And so with this sync, again, just to recap, ERE case status is going into your Clio Matters. Hearing dates are going to calendar events, and ERE documents are now accessible in Clio as well. With that, to get started on this, in case you're wondering what you can do, we have a special launch offer for folks. It's a free white glove integration setup in case you want to just walk through this authentication. There were a lot of those stages that Nikhil was showing in the actual field mapping stages that you might want just a second pair of eyes on. And so all you need to do is there will be a link in the chat that I'll drop where you can book a time if you're already a customer with us to book your white glove session with us. And you just need to make sure that you're on a Chronicle Pro plan, as well as that you have a Clio subscription with admin access. And then from there, if you need to reach us, you can contact us at support@chroniclelegal.com. We have a couple questions that came up in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and drop those in right now, or I'm going to cover those one by one while I drop those links. And so the first question that I think we had was coming in from I think you answered this during the presentation, but I'll just cover from the top for the purposes of the transcription, which is Cassie asked if this integration adds some sort of shortcut to Chronicle within Clio, either in the matter or the contact, out of curiosity.
In Clio, no. Currently, there is no shortcut that is created in Clio. However, I believe we do have a shortcut from Chronicle to Clio, where there's that little drop-down menu next to enabled documents. And let me actually just share my screen potentially, and that will make it a little bit more clear over here. And I know it's mislabeled right now because we have the Salesforce integration also on this account. But if you're on any client, there will be a button here and it will say open in Clio, and that will open up the matter in Clio for you.
Excellent. The next question was from David. He was mentioning that they currently don't change matter status in Clio until they actually file the appeal. So technically it's not recon until RFR is filed. Are there any tips for how to not let appeals slip through the cracks using this Chronicle integration?
Yeah, for sure. So this is, I was actually just working with Travis who gave the quote on this, which is what we've done with him is on the matter stages, we'll actually have one between initial and recon, called, file initial appeal. Um, and we will have Chronicle once the stage is, we'll go down here. Once, it is in initial closed unfavorable, it will actually move into that and appeals stage, and then it'll only move out once recon is open. So, they've accepted that appeal. So it really comes down to just having multiple stages to mean multiple things.
He also asked, in terms of the hearing office automatic updates, in Clio, they list the hearing office as a related contact in the relevant matter. Is it possible to get this to auto update with this integration?
That's a great question. And, unfortunately, the only types of fields we support right now in Clio are text fields and date fields. We are not able to do related contacts
In
or
terms,
things.
yep, go ahead. And then in terms of automations, they also have a hearing task list, but it does not get assigned until the hearing is actually scheduled. Is there a SSA or Chronicle status that differentiates between a case being ready to schedule at hearing and scheduled at hearing?
Um, Reschedule it. Yes. So I believe if we go down here into hearing,
And do you mind just zooming in a little bit? It's a little bit hard
yes.
on the eyes.
All right. This looks a little weird right now. Let me just give that a refresh. There we are. Hearing. So in the hearing section, I know there's a lot. We have scheduled hearing versus ready to schedule, which I believe is a different one. So just know essentially there are two different ones at the Erie that you can use for different stages.
Beverly was asking if we have anything similar for MyCase or any differences between the Clio integration and the MyCase integration.
For sure. So unfortunately, we do not have a native MyCase integration at this time. You are able to get some of this functionality by using Zapier to integrate with MyCase, and we have a couple firms doing that. Pretty much it can do all of the stage mappings and field mappings. It cannot do the document sync.
Jeff asked the question of if you have to create a new matter field in Clio for the last four digits of the SSN in order to match that with Chronicle.
No, we can use any existing SSN field. So the field we target, up here when you say where the SSN is kept, it can be the full SSN. It doesn't need to be just the last four.
Eric's asking about the best way to get access now if they don't want to have an appointment in 2 weeks for white glove setup.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, if you don't want to do the white glove, you just go into settings and then integrations in Clio, and it will be there. You do not need to, use us to go through it. But we are always happy to take a second look once you've done that setup.
And just in curious, how long does setup typically take from what your experience with some of the folks that were testing this integration?
Yeah. So honestly, the setup process only takes, 15 or so minutes. It's actually taking the time to decide what fields you want to map and what stages you want to map that takes potentially a lot more time as you try to, tinker with it and figure out what works best for your firm and your use case. So definitely that could take, a couple hours to a couple of days, just depending on how much thought you want to put behind that. And this is where I really recommend doing it incrementally. So maybe just start with the field mappings, pipe some data in before you start messing with the actual stages. So just do this since it's pretty straightforward. These stage mappings can be a little more finicky and take more thought.
In general, can you sync CEs or info requests with this integration?
So unfortunately, CEs and info requests are not available at this time, but that is in the roadmap for later.
If someone is currently using Zapier, you mentioned some folks that might be on the MyCase integration using Zapier. Why would one want to switch to this integration with Clio?
Um, First and foremost, cheaper. You're probably paying $100 some a month for the Zapier integration. So switching to this would allow you to offload that cost, and therefore, if you're on the Chronicle Pro plan, it is included. Second is just reliability. Zapier can be a little flaky at times, and so this just makes sure that it's something that Chronicle can monitor for you and fix as needed. And once again, it's just about offloading some of that effort to Chronicle. Zapier is something you have to manage yourself.
You had mentioned something during the demo around Clio's AI features. How exactly does this unlock that?
Yeah, so I will say I am not the most familiar with their AI features. I know they have some amount of AI document review and potentially meta chronologies. It's called Clio Manage AI. And in order for those features to work best, you have to have all of your evidence in Clio, and therefore Chronicle syncing it in can enable some of that.
This has come up as a question in some of our other recent integration events, but does this data flow both ways or is it one directional right now?
Yeah, so it only flows into Clio, so Chronicle to Clio. The only thing we will ever take out of Clio will be the full SSN of the client if you turn on this sync.
Can multiple people at the firm use this? You had mentioned something earlier in terms of whoever connects it is the one that the action will show up as. What does that look like in terms of multiple user accounts?
Yeah, so anyone in Clio and anyone in Chronicle can view both sets of data, so there's no limitation on who views it. Only one person can set it up, and that person who sets it up will be the actor in Clio who makes the changes. So in Clio, if I go back in this Paul King account, the system has been uploading in documents automatically. And so you can see here in the timeline, it says I uploaded the documents. This is Chronicle actually doing them, but since I connected the account, it comes out under my name.
Got it. And what about cases that folks already have in Clio?
Um,
Is that
so
something that would be
Chronicle is,
resolved in terms of like a white glove setup session or something like that? In terms of just like if there's any discrepancies?
yeah, I think that, yeah, if you have any clients in Clio, we will do our best to match. That's the matching process. There's always just the possibility that, the matches aren't working due to last names being spelled differently. And so that's something we can definitely address during the white glove setup.
Got it. And last question that we have is just in general covering the cost again. Does this cost anything extra?
Yeah, so there's no additional cost if you're on the Chronicle Pro plan. If you are on a Chronicle Essentials, you will need to upgrade to Chronicle Pro in order to have this integration.
Awesome. If folks have any final questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But otherwise, today we focused on Chronicle's new Clio native integration. This eliminates how manual ERE data entry between the case management systems work with respect to Clio users and makes it updated in your Clio matters. So if you are a firm that is using Clio, you should now be able to start working on toggling this in your Chronicle setup so that you no longer have to be manually talking between the two respective platforms. As a reminder, you will get a replay for today's session. For Chronicle Pro users, feel free to book a white glove session in the Zoom chat if you need a second pair of eyes just on setting this up for your team. But otherwise, please share your feedback. You'll get the CMS integration setup checklist. We'll be back tomorrow for our next session, which is also going to be another integration. It's how to get your ERE data into Filevine in the case where you are using Filevine instead of Clio. Other than that, big thanks to Nikhil for walking us through this integration. And thanks everybody for your thoughtful questions as well. And we'll see you all soon. And if we don't catch you tomorrow, we hope to see you in Baltimore as well, since we'll be there at the NOSCR conference. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good
Thanks,
rest of your
everyone.
day.